The ego, it's a word we hear everywhere, in philosophy, psychology, spirituality, and self-help. Almost always it comes with a warning. Beware of the ego. We're told it's dangerous. We're told to kill it, transcend it, silence it. But here's the question no one seems to ask. If ego is really just an enemy, why do we have it at all? Why did nature design us with this inner voice that insists on identity, recognition, and self-preservation? The truth is, ego is not your enemy. It becomes destructive only when you don't know how to listen. If you learn to listen correctly, ego transforms from a prison guard into a teacher, one of the most powerful teachers you will ever have. Part 1. Understanding ego beyond the myths. Let's strip away the myths. Ego is not some evil parasite inside you. It's not a mistake. It's a psychological mechanism that helps you survive. Think about what ego does. It creates your sense of self, the I that distinguishes you from everyone else. It protects you from being dissolved into the chaos of the world. It gives you ambition, drive, and self-respect. Without ego, you wouldn't set boundaries. You wouldn't pursue goals. You wouldn't even say, "This is me." So the idea of killing the ego is not just unrealistic, it's destructive. Because to kill the ego is to kill the very structure that lets you function as a human being. The problem isn't ego itself. The problem is our relationship with it. We confuse listening with obeying, and we confuse silence with mastery. Part 2. The first ear versus the second ear. Here's where everything changes. When ego speaks, you have two ways to hear it. The first ear is automatic. Someone disrespects you, and ego shouts, "Fight back, prove yourself." The first ear reacts instantly without reflection. This is where most people live, in automatic obedience to ego. The second ear is conscious. It hears the same voice, but pauses. It asks, what is this voice protecting? What truth is hidden inside this outburst? This second ear doesn't take ego as a dictator, but as a messenger that speaks in exaggerations, distortions, and sometimes lies, but always reveals something about you. Part 3. The language of ego. The ego's language is dramatic. It says, "They disrespected me." But beneath that may be an old wound of feeling unseen. "I deserve more than this," which might point to suppressed potential you've been ignoring. "I can't lose, I must win," which may hide a deep fear of worthlessness. If you only fight ego, you miss the hidden message. If you only obey ego, you get trapped in illusions. But if you listen with the second ear, you begin to translate ego's language into self-knowledge. This is how ego transforms from enemy to teacher. Part 4. Why suppressing ego backfires. Many people believe the solution is suppression, to push ego down, deny it, pretend it doesn't exist. But suppression is just another form of ego in disguise. Because the ego loves masks. It can wear the mask of arrogance, but it can just as easily wear the mask of false humility. When someone claims, "I have no ego," it is often the ego speaking the loudest, proudly wearing invisibility as its costume. True mastery is not suppression. True mastery is integration. Ego must be acknowledged, understood, and placed in its rightful position, not as your ruler, not as your enemy, but as one voice in your inner council. Part 5. The practice of listening correctly. So how do you actually practice this? Step 1. Notice without judgment. When the ego flares up, don't scold yourself. Don't say, "I shouldn't feel this way." Instead, recognize it. Label it. This is my ego speaking. Let's hear what it has to say. Step 2. Search for the vulnerable truth. Beneath pride, there may be insecurity. Beneath envy, there may be untapped ambition. Beneath anger, there may be a boundary you failed to honor. Ego shouts, but behind the noise is a whisper, and that whisper is often the real lesson. Step 3. Respond consciously. You don't have to obey ego, and you don't have to exile it. You can acknowledge it, extract its lesson, and then act with clarity. Over time, this practice rewires your inner dialogue. You stop being enslaved by ego and you stop being ashamed of it. Instead, you learn from it every single time it speaks. Part 6. The gifts of ego. If you integrate ego instead of fighting it, you discover its hidden gifts. 1. Drive. Ego pushes you to grow, achieve, and create. Without it, ambition dies. 2. Boundaries. Ego reminds you where your limits are and when they've been crossed. 3. Identity. Ego gives you the sense of I necessary to walk your unique path. 4. Self-respect. Ego defends your dignity when it's threatened. These gifts only become toxic when you confuse the gift with the giver, when you worship the ego's voice instead of decoding its message. Part 7. Ego as teacher. The final transformation is this: to see ego as teacher. A teacher that doesn't always speak kindly, a teacher that often provokes, exaggerates, and challenges, but a teacher nonetheless. Every flare of jealousy, every spark of pride, every burst of defensiveness is a lesson waiting to be uncovered. Ego doesn't always tell the truth, but it always points towards something that matters. And when you learn to listen correctly, even ego's lies become useful, because they reveal your fears, your desires, and the shadows you've been avoiding. You will never get rid of your ego. You will never transcend it completely, and you don't need to, because ego isn't the villain. Blind obedience is the villain. Suppression is the villain. Misunderstanding is the villain. When you listen correctly, ego becomes your ally. Not perfect, not always pleasant, but necessary. A mirror that reflects your inner world. Sometimes distorted, sometimes harsh, but always revealing. So don't silence your ego. Don't fight it. Instead, learn to hear it with your second ear. Extract the lesson hidden inside its noise, and let it guide you. Not as a master, not as an enemy, but as a teacher on the path of self-understanding. Ego is not your enemy. It is your messenger, if you learn how to listen.